Hello, everyone. I just posted the sign-in sheet if you guys want to sign in, and we're starting to record right now.
Okay, hi guys. Can everyone hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll start our meeting now. So welcome to our third journal meeting. Thank you guys for coming out here tonight. And just to put it out there, our membership coordinator, Jennifer, is going to be filling in for Tina tonight. And she's also going to be the moderator for our discussion later. So with that being said, here is our meeting agenda. So we'll first do our announcements, and then we'll do a quick activity, and then we'll get into the panel discussion.
So this is the list of our dues and memberships. So for UPD, it's $10 a semester or $20 for life. There is a GPA requirement for UPD that is obviously different from HCASF, which Brenda will cover later, but it's 3.25 GPA requirement. And then as far as the graduation SOL and the graduation package, we'll discuss that as we get a little closer to graduation season. And side note, the CashNet site is up for dues.
Yeah, and same with HCSF, for CapsNet is now up and running, so you guys can start paying your dues. And just to remind you guys, it's $10 a semester and $20 academic year, and there's no GPA requirement. And then for our reminders, so this is our last meeting of the semester, so please make sure to sign in. And we decided to conclude our events this month since December is usually really busy for everyone. So next semester, we're hoping that we can do more in-person events, and we'll keep you guys updated on that. And if you guys need the sign-in sheet for any reason for your professors or to receive some kind of credit, email HCSF or UPD, or you can also DM us on Instagram, and we can provide you guys with that. And please stay updated by visiting our Beach Links, Instagrams, and Discord to see what we have planned for next semester. We'll probably send some kind of reminder to you guys in January so you guys can see what kind of events we have for next year.
So now we've embarked on the activity portion of our meeting. So the activity is basically we're gonna put everybody into breakout rooms. We're gonna give you about 3 minutes or so in that breakout room with your room, and you can share with each other what you would do with what you want to do with your healthcare administration degree. Oh, oops, sorry. And then once we'll reconvene when we reconvene and come back, I'll pick one person from every breakout group to share their answers.
So everyone is gonna get like a notification right now. I made the breakout rooms, so there'll be 5 different breakout rooms.
Dr. Martinez, Jose, how come you guys are not in the breakout room?
I'm still signing them right now.
I'm just picking on Dr. Martinez.
Oh.
Don't worry.
He thoroughly enjoys doing that.
Wait, Jose.
Hi.
Can you help me really quick?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Cause
You can leave, Dr. Lawrence.
Yes.
I can do it for you, Brenda.
Okay, thank you. Because this is my first time doing it. And I was
Yeah,
like,
just
Oh, no
make me a
worries.
co-host and I'll send everybody off.
Thank
okay,
you, Dr. Martinez.
let me do the host.
Sure.
I was able to put one breakout room together, and I was like, I can't do the rest.
Okay. Oh my goodness, you've already started, so I can't just send them all in every direction. Okay. Oh, geez. Okay, let's see what I can do here. It's not gonna.
Oh yeah,
I'll
I
see.
got notification.
Yeah, it's if you can tell it to do it automatically, I think maybe something happened along the way. So
Yeah.
I'm doing it for you manually. Some may have more than others. Lord have mercy, there's so many of them.
I know, that's why I was like, oh my god, there's so many breakout rooms.
Wanted to pay for dues for UPD. However, I'm not entirely sure if I'm in it or not because I submitted a application with my transcripts and stuff, and no one's reached out to me. So I'm not entirely sure if I'm in it or should pay dues or what I should do.
Is this your first semester at Cal State?
No, this is I'm actually my last year.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me check on that. I'm not sure who that went to, but I will get to the bottom of it and get back to you tomorrow. How's that?
Sounds good, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, so now that everybody's back, we're gonna pick 3 people to share what you guys discussed. Any volunteers?
Jose, can you share that link again for the sign in?
Of course, I'll share right now.
Thank you.
I guess I'll just pick a random breakout room and have somebody share. So breakout room number 3, can somebody please share?
That's a good idea.
I'm not breakout room 3, but I don't mind sharing about what we talked about in, I believe it was breakout room 4. Basically, a couple of us really don't know yet what we want to do. We're still trying to explore our options. And that was mainly one of the main reasons why I actually came to the meeting, just to see like what there is out there already and just see if I can like pinpoint to one direction that I would like to go to.
That's actually a really good one. I mean, even we're all kind of, I'm sure once all of us picked our paths at some point, we were like, am I really? So that's a really good reason to show up. Hopefully we can have it answered by the end of it. Breakout room 6. Anybody?
I'm sorry, I don't remember what breakout room I was from also, but
Go
I'm
ahead, it's fine.
Sarah. So most of the group that I interacted with, were kind of unfamiliar with where we'd like to go in what direction, but some of them mentioned how they're already in the marketing and healthcare and they like what they're pursuing, so they'd like to stay within. And I mentioned how I'm unfamiliar, so I'm going to use the time that I have with my internship to discover what I really like. But for some reason, I kind of see myself working in the human resources department of healthcare. So I'd like to see if that's something that suits me. But like I said, I'm still discovering and seeing what catches my attention.
It's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I'm not part of that group, but I'll share.
Yeah, go ahead.
I said for our group, like, well, some people in our group had like an idea of what they want to do. Me personally, I actually have no idea what I want to do with my degree. I've mostly just been, well, I've been interning at UCI Health, so, and I really like patient interaction. So I want to do something probably related to that. So that's what I said.
That's awesome. You've started, so now you just, keep moving forward.
Yep, I agree. Yes.
Are you gonna put the slideshow back up?
No, we can just start introducing them.
Okay. So tonight we have Jose Valenzuela and Christina Stecki joining us. They're each going to tell us about their experience with the healthcare administration degree and also enlighten us on what we can do with our degrees, whether we're bachelor holders or master's holders. Some of the topics that we're going to cover are job opportunities with a bachelor's degree versus a master's, any healthcare administration certifications that we would be beneficial for us to have, and any organizations that we can join to help us, and then also any other possible ways to apply our healthcare administration degrees. So I'm going to start with, and we'll also be taking your guys' questions, but I'm going to have Christina start and tell us a little bit about herself and her role.
Sure. Thank you, Jennifer. So actually I have, I think, a student or two on the line, so they've probably heard some of this before, but my name's Christina Stecki. I am a part-time lecturer here at Cal State Long Beach, but during the day, that's my moonlighting job. During the day, I'm an associate director at United Healthcare, which is very local to Long Beach in the Cypress area. So let me tell you a bit about my background. Long ago and far away, many, many years ago, before probably some of you were born, I started at Oregon State University as a pre-med major, and I thought it would be a good idea for me to become a child psychiatrist. My sister is severely mentally ill, and I wanted to give back, and that's what I thought I wanted to do when I started at Oregon State. I failed miserably. My freshman year of college was not my finest time in my life. A few too many frat parties and fun, so I failed out. And I ended up moving with my family down to California and started school at Fullerton Junior College. My aunt at the time was the only person in my family who had had a college degree. And she said, go with your gut. Do you want to be a pre-med major, or do you want to do something that you're good at and you like? And I was always good at English. So I figured, why not? I will pursue a degree in English. So that is what transpired. And I ended up transferring to Cal State Fullerton, got my bachelor's in English, and thought for sure I was going to be a teacher or move to New York, just like Carrie Bradshaw, and become a book editor or something like that, and enjoy Manhattan life. But you meet people in your life and they keep you in California. And that's what my husband did for me. So I stayed in California and thought, okay, what do I do now? I have this English degree, but I've been working in law offices throughout college. So what can I do with this? So I applied at a company called Pacificare at the time. This was back in 2005. Jose will know it well because he and I used to be colleagues. So I applied to Pacificare, which is now United Healthcare. And I was hired as a legal assistant for one of the legal departments at the time. And slowly after that, I moved to the litigation department, where some of you, I believe, are currently being taught by Tom Canego. He is a professor here for the legal classes. And I was lucky enough to have him as not only my boss for the better part of 10 years, but also as my mentor. And he continues to be my mentor to this day, at least one of them. And worked for him for 10 years with increasing responsibility at United Healthcare. And at one point he said, you got to do more with yourself. You need to move on. You need to go to law school. You need to get your master's degree. Just do something more. And at the time I was a litigation project manager at United Healthcare. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of lawsuits that can be lodged against an insurance carrier or even a hospital. It just depends on, the arena you're in. And I hit a ceiling. There was just no further to go. And that's what led me to pursue my master's degree at Cal State Long Beach, because I did not want to be an attorney. And so I got my master's degree as an older student. I did it part-time while I was working full-time at United Healthcare. I graduated and left my job in the litigation department, mainly to pursue other opportunities. But I knew I always wanted to stay in law. So I moved over to the compliance organization within my company. The position I held was not for me. So after about a year of, giving it a good try and seeing if it was something and gaining more experience, I knew I had to look elsewhere. And lo and behold, someone who I greatly respected, she had an opening on her team for this new role. And she and I had known each other over the years because we both worked for United. And she said, "Hey, would you join my team?" And I jumped at the chance simply to work for her. And I've been in this role for 2 years now. I was promoted during the course of the last 2 years. And now my specialty is in mental health parity compliance. And so I've had a great opportunity over the last 15, 16 years of my career with United Healthcare to understand various parts of the company and increase my experience over time. And then at some point during that time, a few years ago, my mentor, Tom, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, we need another professor at Cal State Long Beach. We need someone to lecture and help with the legal classes. I like you. I think you could do it. I support you. I've put in a good word. Let me connect you." And that's essentially how I made my connection to become a part-time lecturer at Cal State Long Beach. And so I'm doing that. Like I said, I'm moonlighting as a lecturer and enjoying every bit of it. And then during the day, I am an associate director for United Healthcare. So that's kind of where my story ends and continues at the same time. So I leave it to Jose to obviously give his background and what he has to offer.
Jose.
I was just testing the mute button to make sure it works, and it does work pretty well. I was just saying that you'll soon hear how our paths intersect here with Christina. I actually didn't go to college after high school. I got straight into the working environment. I actually took some technical classes. I got my certificate at the time as a medical assistant. It was some courses that you took at a trade school. I was a medical assistant and an X-ray tech, a limited X-ray technician. Back in the day, they didn't have licensure requirements here in California. So you would go to the school, get a certificate, get placed through an internship. And that's what I did. I ultimately started working at Kaiser as a medical assistant. Did not use any of the X-ray technology licensure that I had, or the certification, if you will. So I worked at Kaiser, and I learned from, working at Kaiser that, patient care is, a big part of the healthcare, arena and some of the things you do. But I really felt more on the administration side. So what I did is I actually moved over to customer service. So, handling telephone calls, helping people with their issues, their benefits, questions they had. And that was actually with a company called FHP, which was later purchased by Pacificare. So we're really going back in time. So I won't, kind of bore you with the details. So Pacificare, I spent a lot of time in operations. Like I said, I did customer service. I did appeals and grievances. At the time, we actually didn't have attorneys or as many attorneys. So we'd actually go to a small claims court, and we'd actually sit there and present, in small claims court, which was fun. But what I also realized is that in order to really, move on within the organization, I needed to get my degree. So I did go and get my bachelor's degree. I got my bachelor's degree in business management. I did it while I was working full time. Went to University of Phoenix and did well with my bachelor's. I was able to move into a supervisory role, ultimately a manager. And from there, I started moving into some of the project management work. So we were doing a lot of changes within our systems. So if you think about project management is systems integration, training individuals, implementing software like WriteFax. So back in the day, they actually had fax machines. Now everything's electronic. And then same thing with what we call a document repository. So we were storing things, paper files, and everything was starting to move over to online, so in repositories. So we implemented a system to do that. And then even more so, once again, my desire to continue to move within the organization, I decided to go and get my master's. I can tell you that Cal State Long Beach has probably the best master's program for the amount of money you're paying. Not to say that it diminishes the value of your master's from any university, but when you compare it in the value you get, Cal State Long Beach hands down was a great program. And I was doing the accelerated program. And as you mentioned, as Christina mentioned, Tom Canego at the time was in the organization. I wasn't intimately familiar with him, but I did take his course, a great course that he taught. Unfortunately, at the time, it was only online. I was really interested in seeing him in person. So I did complete my master's program there at Cal State Long Beach. And from there, I just moved on within the organization in different roles. I've done regulatory affairs for many years. Just within that specific regulatory affairs area, there's just so many roles. I think one thing you'll learn is that healthcare industry is huge. There's tons of opportunities. I know you guys were talking about not really knowing what exactly you want to do. That's okay. I've had many roles, and you'll continue to go through that. You'll evolve. I think the key is, getting into the organization that you like, based on the culture, something that makes you comfortable, something that you believe in, and then within that organization, growing. There's going to be plenty of opportunities. Like I said, there's so many roles that exist within healthcare, from patient care. So you have all the patient care side, and then you have the insurance or the administrative side, and then you'll find what works best for you. So with United Healthcare, I was with United Healthcare for 23 years, and then recently left. I went over to Kaiser Permanente. At Kaiser today, I'm at the Los Angeles Medical Center, and I am a compliance practice specialist. Basically, I report to the regional compliance officer, and I oversee some of the day-to-day operations at the medical center related to compliance. And a lot of these terms, like I said, regulatory affairs, compliance, legal, there's a lot of things that fall within those different areas. For me, compliance is specific to, those 7 elements of compliance, fraud, waste, and abuse, privacy and security, ethics, and everything that falls within those different buckets of work. So that's where I am today, still at Kaiser. As Christina mentioned, we were colleagues, we're a couple aisles away from each other for many years. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm hopeful that, just my experience, or our experience, at least gives you an idea of kind of the different paths, because there is no set path, for how you will, have your career. But this just gives you another idea of how it may go for you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Jose more in that I think it's important to look at your degree as more of a business degree with a healthcare twist. And there's a lot that you can do with the degree, and jobs are in very high demand right now. I mean, there's just so many openings and possibilities for your degree. So obviously we'll get into it more with the panel, but yeah, I completely agree with Jose. Your path is not necessarily set in stone. It can take you many places, and good places.
Thank you guys so much for sharing your background. It's actually really cool to hear all the different, like the journey, like you guys started together and then kind of branched off, but still, like, here you are again. Yeah. So with that, we'll move into our subtopics. Christina and Jose, can you tell us a little bit about the differences of job prospects between bachelor's holders and master's holders in healthcare admin?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think a master's degree really and truly just kind of sets you apart from the pack. If I were to look at a resume from someone who had, say, 5 years of experience in healthcare versus someone who was fresh out of grad school, never had any experience, I'd probably go with the experienced one. Sight unseen, just because there's something to be said when you have work experience. And I think that's paramount to any education you have at times, but it does set you apart. Bachelor's degrees, I think, are a necessity anymore. When Jose and I were being brought up in this world, it was something we wanted, but it wasn't necessarily a need. Now it's just kind of, what's required. With a master's degree, I find that it gives you that little kick, that extra something on your resume. But work experience is huge. So with that, there's a variety of areas that you could go with either your bachelor's or master's. And like I said, it's a business degree with a healthcare twist. So what are you passionate about? What would you like to go into? This is where internships are really helpful. But you could go into fields like IT. I heard someone mention HR. Epidemiology and population management is huge right now because of COVID. So public health is absolutely a possibility. There are customer service and relations positions and contracting positions, IT. There's so many areas you could go into other than the legal compliance, regulatory affairs area that Jose and I have ventured into and have kept to, that you could use to, pursue. With a healthcare degree, you just need to not limit yourself to thinking, I have to run a hospital. That is not what this is intended to do. Get away from the administration aspect and look to, what do I like in healthcare from the non-clinical perspective, and pursue that instead of just limiting yourself to an administrative type degree. Jose, I don't know if you had other thoughts on that, but that was my 2 cents with this.
No, I totally agree with everything you said. I think recently I've actually been exposed to a different scenario. So first of all, like you said, when we were, coming up in the healthcare ranks, if you will, high school diploma was your entry into the door, in the door. And then from there, your experience was equal to a degree, say 10 years of experience in healthcare operations would be acceptable to some hiring managers in lieu of a degree. And some of the the requisitions that you look at, the job postings, some of it would say that, experience, accepted in lieu of degree. I think we've gone away from that for the most part for most of the positions that I see. And as you move within the organization to higher paying jobs with higher requirements, you're going to see the minimum bachelor's degree required. I can tell you there's a colleague of ours, Christina, Fernando, who he has his bachelor's, but he's done very well for himself. So don't always think that you would have to get your master's to excel and do well. A lot of that comes with some of that tacit knowledge or those tacit abilities that I call, it's not just a degree. You're not going to get a job automatically because you have a degree. There's some other things that come along with it, right? Just those things you can't train to. A lot of people say, you don't hire people based on their experience. You hire them based on their attitude, their personality, their abilities, what you can train them. Because you could always train skill. You can always train customer service. You can always train appeals and grievance, project management, but you can't train, good attitude. You can't train someone who's dependable. You can't train somebody to have good work ethic. I mean, so those types of things that you can bring to, either market yourself or bring in to any role without even having experience. So don't, kind of diminish those qualities, and work on those qualities. If you're here at Cal State Long Beach, you know about emotional intelligence. Dr. Freshman, I know she to me, she's like the pioneer of emotional intelligence for me, because that was my first exposure when I took Dr. Freshman's class. I'm thinking, wow, I mean, this makes sense. So emotional intelligence, it plays a role in, how you're seen, how you may interview, how you present yourself. But to go back to the question, I apologize for kind of going off on a tangent here, but having a degree definitely gets you in the door and it helps you in a lot of positions. But once you have the ability to see what you enjoy, what maybe is your passion, just continue down that path. A master's doesn't automatically always get you, a job increase. I remember at some point people said you can get a automatic raise when you do your master's. That hasn't been my experience. You still have to work for it. You still have to learn as much as you can. You should be learning something new all the time, even in your existing roles. Once you are in a career, in a position that you enjoy, always learn something new. Be willing to stretch yourself. And then as far as a degree, my first experience just came recently where in order to be a compliance officer for one of our medical centers at Kaiser, you must have your master's. So that was actually my first experience where we have a very qualified candidate who is what they call the interim compliance officer, but she will not get the job regardless of how qualified she is because of the requirements of having a master's. So that's Kaiser, and that's my first time experiencing somebody who is very qualified and is doing the job, unable to attain that job because she does not have her master's. So first example for me, so thought I'd share it.
That was a very good example. Thank you for that one. So the next topic that we're gonna cover is, are there any healthcare administration or certifications that either of you would advise or deem as beneficial for degree holders, like extra certifications?
Yeah, so I think this really plays into what you ultimately want to do. I would never tell someone just spend the money, get all the certifications you can, because that's going to matter. At the end of the day, if your goal is to be a project manager, you might want to look into getting your PMP certification. If your goal is to be within compliance, sometimes it's helpful to have a CHC after your name. Sometimes it's required. But don't spend the money to get all of these initials after your name, because at the end of the day, it may not be beneficial to you. Like Jose said, and I think it's a great emphasis, your attitude and how trainable you are and how beneficial you can be to a company is really going to be what your success is. So I hasten to think students are spending a lot of money to get certifications that frankly are just going to be useless at the end of the day. But if there's a passion, absolutely go forward with that certification and obtain it. You could always learn more. It's important to continue to learn, but don't waste your money if you think it's going to do something more for you, because in my experience, it's not necessarily going to do that.
Great point, Christina. And I think a lot of those certifications, I think most of them require X amount of hours or years in, a certain field. So that's another thing. You want to make sure that it's an area that you, like you said, the CHC, the certification in healthcare compliance, you have to demonstrate X amount of hours, you have to get tested. So if it's something you want to do, you're definitely gonna have to spend some time understanding that compliance rule.
Those are all really great inputs and advice. So thank you for that. The next topic is going to be, are there any organizations that you guys would recommend that students join, whether it's on campus or outside?
Yeah, so I kind of like with the certifications, I don't think it's a prerequisite to anything. I think networking is great. And I think it's important because that's really how you build your connections, build potential opportunities. So if there's something you're passionate about, say public health, achieving some sort of membership to a public health organization might be feasible. For a bachelor's candidate or even a grad school student, find an organization that might be within your passion or general that has a student status. And that way you're not spending hundreds of dollars to achieve this membership that I don't know how much it'll pay off in the end. What I find more compelling on someone's resume, frankly, is if they're volunteering, spending their time trying to learn their industry in a volunteerism type way, or even just volunteering, period. It shows you're getting outside of yourself. You're learning something more about your community, about what's going on in the world. So I would encourage that, but there is some networking opportunity when you do join an organization. Just make sure it's something that you actually want to spend your time doing.
Yeah, absolutely, Christina. And I'd say everybody here on this call, network with everybody you're in classes with. one thing that I would observe is those folks in my classes that I wanted to work with, so we'd break out in teams and we had these sub work groups and we had projects. You get the slacker, you get the person who's not carrying their weight. Unfortunately for them, you're going to remember that. So when you find a good team and you have a good cohort, you have people that you can rely on that, do their part, network with those individuals, because, 5-10 years down the line, you may have an opportunity for them. They may have an opportunity for you. So I think it's important, to develop those relationships, maintain those relationships, and not for the selfish need to say, I may need a job from you in the future, but just to, network with people that share your, your desire, your responsibility, your accountability, and, have the same level of accountability as far as for work and for getting their assignments done. It's just as simple as that. I still have people from my cohort, that I talk to and that I keep in touch with, because I value them. Some of them are in labs, they're doing data scientists, some of them are selling medical practices, different types of roles, but I keep in touch because I think what they do is important. I value, them, and I network with them. LinkedIn, is something that I do, just to see where people are at, to see how people have grown, to see what they've done. And like I said, in the future, you may end up, reporting to one of those individuals, or, they may report to you. So it's good to have those relationships with your partners, your classmates, and those that you want to be networking with.
The cliche, it's not what you know, it's who you know sometimes.
There's a rumor about Kaiser that it's really who you know. I mean, I've heard that from people outside that tell me, oh, how'd you get in? Or I think a lot of times if, you have a good network and they have an opportunity and you reach out, it's simple as saying, hey, if you hear of anything, please let me know. So yeah, sometimes it is who you know.
Yeah, it's kind of, and Jose won't say this, but when he left our company, he left a dent. And there's a lot of people who miss Jose, including myself. It's nice when you leave that mark and you keep that connection, because you never know. And it's always good to have that network and that ability to say, you know what, okay, I'm done here, let's go here, or meet up again later on in the future. So it's really important to do that.
Absolutely.
And then also, are there any other ways that we can use the healthcare administration degree that's not related to healthcare? Christina, I know you said something about branching out and not just pigeonholing yourself to the administration. I want to run a big hospital. So I think this whole question covers a little bit more of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I started with an English degree, and where that has helped me is I know how to write and I know how to communicate pretty well, at least most days when I'm not so tired. But I think, your degree at the end of the day, it's not necessarily what you learn, but it's the skills that you acquire during that learning process, the analysis, the speaking ability, writing. Like I said, it is so crucial in business to know how to write and know how to make your point known in a very succinct way. And so you could parlay that into a variety of different settings, not just even in healthcare, but, to spin it as a business degree with a healthcare twist. If you want to move into another area, there's no issue doing that. You've gone through 4 years of college, you've put good money and good work into this. So by all means, make it work for you. Just make sure you're utilizing that skill set that you've acquired over the last 4 or even 7, 8 years, like it took me. Make sure it works for you, but know that it's really more of a business degree with that healthcare spin. So you can definitely take that in a variety of ways.
Absolutely. I mean, you could take the business aspect and start a home health agency, custodial care facility, skilled nursing facility. In order to run those organizations, it's not knowing about healthcare. Yeah, it's part of it, but you have to be able to run a business. You have to be able to set up a business plan. And Christina's point is excellent. You have to take the skills that you're learning, here, working in teams, working with people, different personalities. You have to bring the best out of people. those are all going to translate, to whatever roles or positions you choose to go into.
And then the last subtopic is the different distinctions between among healthcare, like in the degree field of healthcare administration, and then how we can like all the careers that are associated with those different distinctions.
Yeah, so I think all too often, and I hear this from a lot of my students over the years, and even now, as I've had, I know there's one or two of you on that I've talked to just on a personal level, mainly because Tom Canego put me up to it. But I think it's a good thing, where students get hooked on this administration idea, and they have to be an administrator, and that's all they can do. And I don't know if you should necessarily narrow your focus to a specialization. Do what you're passionate about, because if you don't like what you do, you're going to hate your life. So if you want to stay in healthcare, find what part of healthcare you like. Intern and explore other opportunities, a variety of opportunities. Talk to people, reach out. There are so many people out there who just want to talk to students, kind of like Jose and I, where we have no problem sharing our knowledge, and we want to, because we've got a little, history where we can share that with others and not make the same mistakes, or frankly, benefit from what we've learned over the course of time. So reach out if there's, if you're passionate about, exploring lobbying for healthcare policy and change, reach out to your senator's office, reach out to a nonprofit. There's a variety of things that you can do that I think if you get caught up in the idea of, I have to do this, I have to specialize in this, I think you end up selling yourself short. So think about what you like, and then find that area of healthcare that you really could explore. Even if it means, I like doing accounting. Okay, great. Where in healthcare can you take that? What can you make that into? Just find that area of passion versus trying to find something that's just going to be straddling you to a desk for 8 hours a day and just completely unhappy because you've got all this education, but no passion for it, or no like in what you're actually doing.
Yeah. And you'll find some roles that you may have maybe just that, right, Christina, where you feel like you're strapped to desk, but sometimes it's part of the journey. I think, somebody made a great point that, everybody's journey is going to be different. It may take you some while to find what you're passionate about. So maybe you do have to go through some of those roles. But I'd say, once again, continue to grow, continue to learn something new. There's so much opportunity in healthcare. I mean, we've only just not even scratched the surface, as it relates to our experiences. Provider contracting. I mean, that's something, I think of some of the people I've worked with, people in product, people who develop products, people, who are actuaries who, determine products, their costs, their pricing, how much it is to go out there and sell a product. Sales. I mean, some people are natural salesmen or salesperson, and that's just what they do, and they do it well. There's plenty of people out there selling Medicare plans who do very well for themselves, because that's what they like to do. They like to be out and about, something different every day. They like to sell. So there's, and that could be the same in a commercial space, selling to employers, working with government programs. There's just so much opportunity. And I think the key, is just to, if you can get an internship. I know I didn't have the opportunity to do that, but if you can get a internship, externship, whatever you call it now, where you can sit in a role, regardless of whether you're getting paid or not, to learn something, and then maybe take it from there or decide if that's something you want to do. I think those are invaluable. I'd do as many as I could if I had the ability to.
Yeah, I think, and when Jose was talking, just in thinking about the resources you have before you as students, we have a great advisory board with Cal State Long Beach. Jose, you're still a member of the advisory board. There are people on there. There's some serious connections. So don't be afraid to just randomly reach out and say, hey, I kind of know, I don't really know, but I'd like to talk to somebody. And reach out to, whether it's Dr. Earliana or any of your advisors, any of your professors, and just say, I would just like to talk to somebody to explore this. And that way that person can start making those connections for you. Because I remember when I was 19, 20, I didn't want to talk to anybody because frankly, I didn't know what I was doing. But this is your opportunity to do that and kind of explore things and figure things out for yourself. And so don't be afraid to ask those questions and reach out, because I think all really want to support and help to make sure that you're, benefiting from this education and ultimately doing great in your careers later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you're all part of the mentoring program. That's another thing that, our friend Tom is good about getting us involved with. But to me, the mentoring program is this discussion we're having right now, but one-on-one. Maybe a little bit more frank, a little bit more open, like, hey, you should look at this. How about this? Hey, I know a friend who's over here. To me, a mentoring program, and Christina said it, but Tom is probably one of the best mentors you can have. A mentoring program is just the ability to talk to somebody, hear from them, personal experience, and at the same time, maybe leverage some connection they may have, or just to answer some questions. So if you're not part of that program, I would recommend it. Like I said, it's very informal. It's just getting on the phone with somebody, every few weeks, every month, to talk about what you've experienced, what they've experienced, and maybe how you can help one another.
Thank you so much for the insight. I honestly, I feel like I just got a fire lit up. We're all feeling motivated. The chat's coming in too. So thank you so much for that. You guys. So we're gonna start off now with some questions. Me and Brenda also put the questions up on Instagram. So Brenda's gonna read all the Instagram ones, and I'm gonna read all the ones from the chat. Brenda, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start reading the ones from Instagram. That way, you guys can start thinking of questions, and please type it in the chat box. So what I got on Instagram, this person said that they graduated with a bachelor's and the only job that they got was a call center job. And they're asking if they should feel bad about this or if there's anything they could do from this to forward their career.
Can I answer that one, Christina? Because
you can, absolutely.
I started in the call center. Like I said, I was doing what we call Secure Horizons, which is our Medicare business. And you're on the call. They tell you when to take a break. They tell you when to take a lunch. They tell you when you have to pee because you're on these calls and they're coming in one right after another. That for me set the foundation for everything I know today, in the sense that you really get a variety of calls. You get to learn about a health plan, regardless whether you're doing commercial, you're doing Medicare. More power to you. I think you do that for a year, do that for 2 years, and then you take that foundation, everything you've learned, and you should be able to get a role doing something different that is a progressive role, something that will show you that there's more opportunity out there. But I think it's a great foundational role to have coming out. I don't think that because you have a degree, you should be ashamed. Or I know people with degrees from University of Oregon, the Ducks. Christina mentioned it. And they're working in a call center right now at Optum with Christina. So nothing to be ashamed of. I think you take as much as you can, learn as much as you can, and then you run with that experience and find something different.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Every experience you have, you can learn something from it. And I still, to this day, there are people in the call center who've been there for 10, 15, 20 years. They are the most knowledgeable people I know because they've just had all sorts of experience with our customers, and you learn patience, you learn how to interact with people, and you just start to build that experience. It's invaluable.
Okay, thank you. And then another question that we have is any tips to improve their professional/career life?
It's a funny question. Sorry, Jose, I'll start this with this, and I'm sure you'll have stuff to add. Just start. I mean, you're already in school, you're already pursuing a career. This is the start of your career, really. Obtain that job experience, whether you're still in school. Both Jose and I were full-time workers, part-time students. Just start building it and growing your network. Jose mentioned LinkedIn, and I think in one of my classes that was a requirement to get out of my class was to join up with LinkedIn to start your network. Just build upon that and start to just, create this, wealth of experience that you will no doubt start. But it's going to come over time. Don't expect too much too soon. It takes time to build all of this, but you've already started. So just continue on that path.
Great point, Christina. Couldn't say anything more to that. I just one thing to know, a lot of us, will be retiring soon. I mean, when Christina mentioned the workforce and the need, there's no doubt about that. I personally know, dozens of people that are already preparing for retirement. And, it's that effect where now you have all these openings and they're looking for people, within different organizations, start filling some of those roles. Maybe not at the same level, but it really is, a trickle down. So it will affect the organization, the need to have, more people like you available.
Question popped up in the chat too. Someone is asking, in the long run, what's more beneficial, an MBA or an MHA? And which one do you recommend?
Both Jose and I have MHAs, so I'm a little I'm a little biased, but at the end of the day, I keep repeating this, you really are getting a business degree with that healthcare spin. It's just more specialized to healthcare. You're still, for those of you that are grad students, you will no doubt write a business plan. You'll no doubt write the paper, get it in. You're learning about business and how to perform. And so I don't think one necessarily has more value to another. It just depends on where you want to go. And frankly, even with an MHA, it could take you into another business area. I don't see the one being weighed against the other, frankly.
Yeah, I agree, Christina. I used to think that an MBA was, like more the business side, the business driven person, profits, losses, all about that. But we have a colleague, Jeff, who's an MBA, and he says, oh, MBAs, you also have your MBA. And it's like, no, it's technically an MHA, but, some people it does, master's is a master's, just different concentrations. Then you get others who maybe associate the MBA more with, like an entrepreneur, a business owner, more business oriented business plans. So I personally don't see a difference. I think it all depends on your goal. If you feel like you'd be better off with an MBA, I say pursue an MBA. But if you want to, for me, it made more sense to follow or pursue an MHA because I had been in healthcare already for 10, 15 years. So I wanted to leverage that experience in healthcare and kind of complement that with the master's in healthcare.
Yeah, and not to throw another wrench in this, but you also have opportunity to go after your master's in public health, which, this is another area that, because of COVID, it's, we need a lot of people who can fight the good fight and make sure this doesn't happen again and can use the data that we have and be able to make sure it works and how we can, deal with these underserved populations and where there's variances in the determinants of health. And there's so much that can be done. So, an MBA, MHA, that might not be the path for you. You might want to pursue, something that's more in the public health realm and become an epidemiologist or someone that's working in that vein. It's just really kind of what you're passionate about.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I had a question that I was stewing on the whole time. How do you guys feel about health administration fellowships, and do you think they're necessary / beneficial?
Jose, do you want to take this one?
I honestly, I'm not. What's a fellowship? Are you referring like to the? I'm not familiar. Can you help me understand what a fellowship is?
So the Healthcare Administration Fellowship is basically like a post-grad, I don't want to say internship, but it's kind of like a specialization internship where you go and you can have the opportunity. You apply to different hospital. Well, I've only looked at the hospital ones, but hospitals, and you kind of rotate, like it take like your whole fellowship is a year or two, and you do like 10 sections of a hospital. Or
Sounds amazing. Yeah. I mean, if you can, if your situation allows you to do that, I couldn't think of a better thing. Like you said, the rotation. I currently work at a hospital, and that's kind of what I do, in the sense that I immerse myself in the different areas, the ICUs, the cardiac areas, the emergency departments, employee health and safety, environmental services, people who pick up the trash, the gowns. Everybody has a role, and that's what I've been doing. I've been learning as much as I can, and everybody has a specialty. I mean, you can't just put trash in trash. Trash isn't trash. You have, biohazards, you have, chemicals, you have the sharps containers. So everybody has a specialty. Everybody is, our subject matters in their specific areas. And if you have the opportunity to, rotate through some of those areas and really get to know, hospital system from, top to bottom, I'd be all for it. I wish I could do it today, but I can't afford it.
Yeah, I agree with Jose. Anytime you have these opportunities, and I know the fellowships can be very competitive, but I mean, it's great. It's kind of like what I considered the wheel in high school, where you got home ec and art and, wood shop. This is kind of like you can experience all levels of that, and then decide this is where I want to go. And you've made those connections throughout that year or 2 years. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I agree with Jose. I wasn't in the position to be able to do that. I had to pay a mortgage, frankly. So, it was just not in my wheelhouse, but yeah, absolutely. If you have the ability, by all means.
My kids wanted to eat, Christina.
Yeah.
Tell you, they
Fancy
want everything.
that.
Yeah, I know.
So we got more questions. One of them is, how do they recommend we go, how do you recommend we go about networking when we're still limited by COVID? So LinkedIn ? Or really just do it through internships and professors?
All the above.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can find Jose and me on LinkedIn. We're both there. If there's things that you're passionate about, like I keep repeating, and I know Jose's obviously had that as part of his discussion, he and I both have contacts. I'm sure we know somebody who can talk to you, but same with the professors, and the same with, those that are around you at the school. Network as much as you can. That is your network, and building that over time. LinkedIn is just an easy way to track that network. And so I encourage you to do that. But yeah, COVID kind of put a nasty spin on things, but that's the easiest way at this point.
Great.
Does the school you go to for your master's degree matter? For example, a Cal State Long Beach healthcare administration degree versus a USC one?
Yeah, I'd say it does. Personally, in my experience, MBA from USC, Stanford, yeah, it's going to make a big difference compared to, something from Cal State Long Beach. I think that's why I started by saying, really, for the value of what we get in an education from Cal State Long Beach, for the amount of money we pay, it's a great opportunity to do it through Cal State Long Beach. But like I said, if you have the means and the ability to go to like a UCLA school, for public health, we both know Nancy Monk, that's where she went. Yeah. One of our colleagues, former bosses. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And it does carry more weight, maybe because of the way they are ingrained in their system. In other words, their program is with, in LA with UCLA healthcare, so they get more ingrained in that, health system. So yeah, it's maybe there's notoriety with going through that program. Same with USC. I'd be lying if I said it didn't make a difference, but it does. But I'll tell you personally, Cal State Long Beach, I think it holds its own. For me, if I was hiring somebody, I saw Cal State Long Beach or any of the Cal States, Fullerton, Northridge, any of these different Cal State schools, I wouldn't treat them any differently because I know they're good programs.
Agreed.
Does any one of your companies have any openings for a new undergrad?
You know, there's both Jose and I work for very large companies in California and frankly nationally or even internationally, and sadly that we have job boards. You know, both Jose and I do, but you know, if there's ever an interest in the right candidate, you know, you now have a contact at both companies, and there might be something out there you're interested in, and if we can make the right connections, great. You know, if it's a candidate that we can support, fantastic. But there's tons of opportunities out there, not just with our companies, but throughout the industry because of COVID and because of the shortage of people who want to actually work. So, so don't sell yourself short with just our two companies. There's a lot out there.
Yeah. And I, unfortunately, I don't have any hiring right now ability, but I can tell you, I have been, you know, contacted on LinkedIn and they ask about it. And I said, the least I can do is definitely share my knowledge of what I know. You know, if it's a position in customer service or, you know, mental health or behavioral health, I can definitely share what I know about the position. I can give some ideas on, you know, how to better educate yourself on that specific role, the business, types of things to talk about in an interview. Those are the types of things I absolutely am more willing to do. Aside from not being the hiring manager or, you know, being, you know, the person has any control over the hiring itself, I'm more than happy to share information about, you know, the role, the department, what I know about the area. Absolutely.
Thank you. And then what made you go into the healthcare field? How is it like to work in a hospital or insurance company?
So mine was, I don't know if Jose feels the same, born out of necessity, aside from the desire to apply my legal knowledge, because I was a pre-med major. I thought, okay, I'll be in the legal department and also have this healthcare company that I'm working for. But I needed to, you know, pay my bills, and that's how I landed in healthcare. And thankfully, it's just stuck, and it's been something that I've been able to grow within and move forward. So really, it was more out of necessity for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, everybody's situation is different. If you have to take the customer service job, then you take it. Absolutely. And I definitely, you know that there's opportunities, you know, regardless of what you're doing today, you'll find opportunities. For me, you know, healthcare found me. I didn't really find healthcare. You know, I wanted to do something. I picked medical assisting and x-ray tech. And then, you know, from there, I just decided to stick with it and stay in the industry. But there's nothing in particular, you know, I didn't have the information or the intel to know like, oh, healthcare is growing. It's, you know, it's going to grow over the next, you know, 10, 15 years by, you know, 20% or whatever, 17%, whatever, you know, look it up on the Department of Labor and Statistics, right? So I didn't have that mindset at the time. It's just a job at the time, like Christina mentioned, out of necessity.
What do you recommend undergrad students do during their gap year after graduating with their bachelor's if they choose not to go directly to grad school?
I think it depends on the place you are in your life. With me, I had a few gap years because I had to pay bills, like I keep going back to. So my gap year consisted of working between, you know, either finishing a semester or a year, or just in between, you know, undergrad and grad. But I do recommend work experience. I recommend volunteering, at least trying to understand where you want to go and pinpoint that down. But if you're young and you don't have many responsibilities, enjoy it, because once you are working and honestly committed to a career, that time is pretty precious. So it just depends on where you're at in your stage of life during that year, or what your abilities are to be able to devote to that year.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's very situational. I wouldn't have a gap year. I want to jump right in as soon as possible, start getting exposed as much as I could. And then you never know, you may make a decision to postpone the master's, based on what you're doing. Maybe you take a different path. Maybe you go, like Christina said, the project management, professional route, or any other, certifications like in healthcare management or health information management, excuse me, like, managing records, electronic health records. So, I'd say I'd, really, call it a gap year. I'd want to get in, involved right away in some type of, role or position.
Thank you for those responses. And then the last one that I see so far is, are you seeing people leaving their jobs due to COVID and not returning to the field, which leaves lots of job openings and places for advancement?
I'm not seeing that. I mean, what's in the media, I honestly haven't experienced. People willing to give up their livelihood for, I'm not sure what. So I haven't personally seen that. Only what you've probably all seen as well, what gets publicized and what's in the media. I haven't seen a huge, reduction in people, unwilling to get vaccinated or leave their jobs. That's just hasn't been my experience. And we do monitor, at least for our medical center, the rates and people that aren't vaccinated. I mean, you're talking maybe about a handful, but I'm not seeing a huge number of people, walking away from their, their livelihood for that reason.
Yeah, I don't think it's probably the nice part about being in healthcare. People are notably wanting to make sure that it continues, and we're serving the patients first and foremost, and making sure their environment is healthy along with our coworkers. But I've noticed a lot of people just want to work from home. So where there are no telecommuters, we now have a lot of telecommuters. So frankly, the environment's a little lonely because I do work in the office. So it's very different, just the tone of an office setting now, because there are so many people who are working from home. But as far as leaving their jobs, I haven't necessarily seen that, but I have heard it's very difficult to recruit for the new jobs that we have and the openings we have, because there are people out there that have just decided, enough, I'm retiring early, I'm cashing it in. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for, what phase in your career you're at. And, COVID's just done different things for a lot of different industries.
Now I was testing the mute button. It was definitely out of left field, this whole change we've had the last year. Thank you so much to Jose and Christina for coming and spending your evening with us and enlightening us. Thank you so much for that. We've put up our Instagrams and our Discord for everyone else to stay connected, because we've learned tonight that networking is key. We'll see you guys hopefully soon. And again, to our guest speakers, thank you so much for coming.
Very welcome.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.